Tonight, 2 people from Western Australia killed when their car overturns in the mid-north. And a warning about the increase in animals on our roads during June.
This is Southern Cross News.
Good evening, but first in some developing news this evening, KordaMentha has announced late today that Korean steelmaker POSCO is the preferred bidder for Arrium's Australian operations. The news was announced earlier with KordaMentha, the consortium, the federal and state governments now in the process of finalising the deal to sell the company, whose assets include the Whyalla Steelworks and the Southern Middleback Ranges mine. POSCO beat out British steelmaker Liberty House, who made a strong bid for the collapsed company. It had been reported today the company had planned to spend $1 billion on the plant to modernise its steelmaking processes. The State Treasurer Tom Koutsantonis said earlier that although there is still some way to go in the sale process, he hopes the news is of relief to the workforce and the Whyalla community, which has been extremely patient and stoic through the uncertain times recently. We'll have full details and reaction in tomorrow's Southern Cross News. To other news now, and 2 people have died and 2 others have been flown to the Royal Adelaide after their 4-wheel drive rolled over overnight in the state's mid-north. At around 12:30, the vehicle flipped over on the Augusta Highway at Hope Gap near Lakeview. The driver, a 26-year-old man, and a passenger, an 18-year-old woman, both from Western Australia, died at the scene, and the other 2 passengers, also from WA, were freed from the vehicle and taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The Augusta Highway was closed for several hours but is now reopened to all traffic. Police spent much of the day at the scene and investigations are continuing into just what happened. The state's road toll now stands at 38 for the year. A fire at a property in Whyalla has caused damage to a shed, with the MFS racing to the scene to put it out. Emergency services were called to the Charles Avenue property after residents noticed smoke gushing from the back of the house late yesterday. John Hunt has more details.
It's a quiet scene here today, but last night it was a scene of fear as fire ripped through our property behind me. The fire started out the back in a shed behind the Housing Trust property. With the structure standing, no chance. Just before 4:30, fire crews were called after residents spotted smoke and flames coming from behind the house. As these pictures show, the blaze took off, with locals rushing to the area as the fire went high into the sky. 8 MFS crew and 2 appliances were on the scene to fight the fire. It took them around half an hour to bring the fire under control. However, it's believed the shed has been destroyed. The occupants are believed to have escaped without any serious injury. Lawn contractor Greg Freeburn was working on a quote at another property nearby when the blaze started. He went in with a hose, but says the place had already taken off, and he backed away due to the severity of the scene.
My boss noticed a house fire over there, so I rushed to go get a hose and put it out, but yeah, well, it was pretty hot and it was asbestos building, so yeah, told me to stand back, keep a distance.
The MFS says they believe the fire was caused by a child playing with a cigarette lighter, with the damage estimated at $15,000. However, with just the shed destroyed, the occupants will be counting their luck the fire didn't cause further damage.
John Hunt reporting there. A radioactive waste management dump proposed near Kimber is set to wrap up community consultation on Wednesday of next week. Residents in the area are being encouraged to take part in a postal vote on whether they support the waste dump on one of 2 of the sites.
In a plan to store byproducts of producing nuclear medicine, the town of Kimber is being considered as a location for a radioactive waste dump, and it would need to stay for at least 100 years.
That'll be a facility that deals with the disposal of low-level radioactive waste and the potential storage, temporary storage of intermediate-level waste.
Mr Wilson says a special site is needed as this type of waste is not allowed in regular landfill.
The majority of this is waste that's associated with the production of nuclear medicines. It's gowns, test tubes, laboratory equipment that may have come into contact with a small amount of radioactivity.
After 2 landowners nominated their properties for the waste facility, the Kimber Council with the Australian Electoral Commission is holding a vote before it's taken to the Minister for Resources to demonstrate the community's level of support. With a yearly government contribution of $2 million and 15 ongoing jobs, the Kimber Mayor says it's what the town needs.
There will be a $2 million fund made available, that will support things like economic development and job creation and so on.
If voted in favour, the government will then hold a second, more detailed phase of community consultation. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
An Eyre Peninsula man has blown more than 4 times the legal limit for drink driving in Port Lincoln this morning. Police stopped a car in Mortlock Terrace, the driver recording a blood alcohol reading of .206. The 26-year-old was suspended instantly with a 12-month loss of licence and had his car impounded. He'll be summoned to appear in the Port Lincoln Magistrates Court at a later date. Well, nothing more than a stunt. That's how Rowan Ramsey has described a motion from the Senate calling on the federal government to use Whyalla Steel in infrastructure projects. He says the government is already working to help the Whyalla Steelworks secure more work from the Commonwealth.
The Greens' motion supporting the Whyalla Steelworks has passed the Senate, but member for Grey Rowan Ramsey says it's nothing more than a cheap stunt.
They pretend that the government is doing something other than the right thing. And then they can say, well, you know, they didn't support compulsory use of Australian steel. It's a cheap shot argument.
He says the government has already secured over $100 million in orders over the last 12 months. And with $10 billion in spending on rail projects announced, Mr Ramsey says Whyalla will be heavily involved.
It is certainly our intention to make sure that the Australian bid gets more than a fair hearing on every occasion.
But he also says Whyalla's bid must compete with overseas suppliers, saying the taxpayer must get value for money.
We will use Australian steel absolutely wherever possible, within reason. If it comes in 5 times the price of imported steel, what would be the responsible thing to do with taxpayers' dollars?
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Well, still to come in tonight's local news, a warning about the increase in the number of animals on our roads during the month of June. The details ahead. Welcome back. Motorists in the region are being urged to stay extra vigilant, with the RAA saying most of its animal casualty crashes occur in June. Figures from the RAA identify the Stuart Highway north of Port Augusta as an animal collision hotspot, with most of the crashes happening at night.
If you're driving in rural areas at night and in June, figures from the RAA show you're the most likely to collide with an animal.
June is the month where we've got the least amount of daylight, so it's darker for longer periods in the morning, and it gets dark quite early in the evening, particularly in conjunction with poor weather conditions, which can see animals out on the move at times when there's probably more traffic on the roads. Most
of the RAA's recorded animal collisions occur in June, with kangaroos making up 60% of these crashes and most damages coming at a cost of $3,000. The RAA says motorists should try not to swerve.
If you're travelling at speed and you swerve abruptly, you can actually lose control of your vehicle, and that can create a roll situation which can be very disastrous, of course, in terms of consequences.
In this situation, he says to be mindful of cars coming behind.
So the best course we generally recommend is people stay in your lane, brake firmly but hard. Obviously look out too for following traffic as well, because you need to be mindful of what traffic behind you might be doing.
The RAA is urging motorists to be aware of more animals on the roads in the month of June, and in particular on the Stuart Highway. Crash repairers here in Port Augusta say they are seeing an increase in expensive damage from kangaroos and cows. Damaged cars, even with bull bars in Port Augusta, serve as a warning for motorists to be aware. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
The grace period for Broken Hill's new parking crackdown is almost over, and drivers are being warned about overstaying their welcome. Over the past 6 weeks, council rangers have been handing out warnings to offending drivers who stay too long in the city's CBD.
The crackdown on parking in the heart of the Silver City is about to get underway.
We've been running the grace period since about May 8, and it's going to be coming to an end on June 19.
Rangers have been patrolling the streets on the lookout for illegal parkers, and they've handed out more than a few warnings. They've mainly been targeting Blend, Crystal and Argent Street.
Mainly throughout the CBD, but also around other parts of town. And they've done about 100 passes with the technology, and that's picked up about 120 infractions.
Drivers will face consequences once the grace period ends, most likely in the form of a fine.
We've instituted that period just to really drive home that this hasn't been a revenue-raising exercise. It's been more of a period just to let people change their behaviour and sort of prepare them for this technology coming into full use.
Council says the high number of infractions shows there is an issue with problem parkers and hopes the new technology will create fair access for everyone around the CBD.
Once we fully commission this technology, we will have to look at finding people who are overstaying their welcome in the CBD, as it really is something that the community has told us that they want to see addressed.
The grace period ends on Monday. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Free skin cancer screenings are being offered to Port Lincoln residents through a mobile unit over the next 2 days. The important tests screen for melanoma and other deadly skin cancers, which cause nearly 2,000 deaths per year in Australia.
It's free, it takes only a few minutes, and it could save your life.
If you're checked regularly every 12 months and you do get a melanoma, it's probably totally curable.
The Lions Life-Saving Skin Cancer Screenings has been a vital regional program. In the past year alone, they've detected more than 200 deadly melanomas. The free service giving those living in isolated places access to paid skin cancer clinics.
Most of the remoter areas doesn't have facilities for people to be screened. The whole system was designed to take the pressure off general practice.
The mobile unit inundated with bookings in Port Lincoln.
Very popular. We've had more people try to book in than have actually been able to fit in.
Melanoma ranks 4th as the leading cause of cancer deaths in Australia. This year alone, it's estimated almost 1,800 people will die from skin cancer. Men nearly 3 times more likely to be affected. But not everyone follows the advice.
It's essential, and we know, unfortunately, from the research that about 7% of the people we send on won't go do anything about it, or not do it immediately.
Skin cancer is commonly caused by overexposure to UV radiation, but many overlook or neglect the early warning signs.
If you get it checked and you do find something early, it's completely curable, so you shouldn't be frightened of skin cancer.
If they find something, it could save your life.
The screening unit will be in Port Lincoln until Friday before heading across the border to the Northern Territory. The free service has been so popular, Lions expects it to be back on the Eyre Peninsula sometime early next year. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. When we return after the break, Broken Hill gets some artistic attention from visiting students from Sydney. The details ahead. Welcome back. Students from Methodist Ladies College in Sydney have been visiting Broken Hill and contributing to the local art scene. The girls have been working on an eye-catching mural at the Broken Hill Art Exchange, which pays homage to 2 of the city's environmental pioneers.
A long way from the big smoke, but these girls are making the most of their time out west. The relationship between Broken Hill and the Methodist Ladies College is a strong one, dating back to the 1940s.
In recent years, they'd come out to Broken Hill to experience the regional outback and the landscape that we have to offer here.
The mural pays tribute to Albert and Margaret Morris, who started the regeneration area around the city. It showcases them and wild flora and fauna in the region.
It's one of the first major land restoration projects that Australia actually ventured on, and it's been adopted throughout Australia and overseas as a way of restoring the earth and combating desertification in areas.
We're actually painting these guys. We're painting Margaret and Albert and everything that you can find within the region, with sturt pea and kangaroos and etc.
The mural will be part of a vast collection across Broken Hill. While the Silver City is known for its mining heritage, it's fast becoming the regional capital of murals.
So there's definitely an opportunity to sort of expand the tourism experience of Broken Hill by identifying where these murals are, looking into the history of the artists and the groups who have produced these murals, and the subject matter that they're commemorating.
Susan says the new mural acts as a sneak peek to the Desert Equinox Earth Art Prize, a community event which starts next month. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
The Mid-North's under-18 men's hockey team is celebrating after a huge win over the long weekend in Adelaide. Drawing in the finals, it came down to a one-on-one penalty shootout, which saw the country team take out the Adelaide Strikers by just 1 goal.
The state zone and under-13 junior hockey championships were held over the long weekend.
Went to Adelaide, played in the hockey championship, which is played every year.
The under-15 boys had a good run, making the semi-finals, finishing 4th overall. The under-15 and under-18 girls had a few close games, but unfortunately missed out on the finals. It was the under-18 boys who went on to win the grand final on Monday against City East. The hard-working team won by just 1 goal in overtime.
Won that 6-5 on penalties, so it was 1-1 at the end of extra time, at the end of time, and then they ended up winning 6-5 on penalties.
And the local team was very lucky to have 4 players selected to be a part of the championship team.
Sam Firm from Port Pirie, Isaac Whittaker from the York Peninsula, and Aidan Stock from the York Peninsula also make the team of the championships for the under-18 boys. And a local girl, Jess Marwick, also made the team of the championships for the under-18 girls.
Mid-North is extremely proud to have taken down the strongest team in the tournament.
Everyone was just amazed that the country team actually did it and bet the Strikers.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
And don't forget, we love to hear about great sporting successes from our region. If you have a sports story you'd like us to hear about, drop us an email to localsport@sca.com.au. Well, time now to see what's biting out on the Gulf waters. Here's this week's fishing tips.
Welcome to another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. This week we're going to send you to a little place called Port Davis. Now, a lot of the guys, we sort of missed this area, but it is perfect fishing for King George at this particular time, from Woods Point right back to the Lowly Rip area. You can get a big circle from snapper to King George whiting and plenty of salmon, so have a go there. Just watch your tide when you're coming and going, because it does get a little bit low. Around the Port Pirie side we still have plenty of squid. Salmon trout are starting to float around at the moment as well, so burley up for those and have a bit of fun. And out deep, just a little bit further out from Cockle Spit area, you'll find some big snapper.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Well, just a simply stunning time of year at the moment, and really good catches of salmon up at the train bridge. And if they're up at the train bridge, you can bet they're in Port Patterson as well. Good catches of snapper, but you really have to move around. There's no real one spot for them. You're not getting a lot, but a few big ones there. Squid down on the shacks as always, down at the middle banks, and also these really calm nights, get out there and try dabbing for garfish.
Hi everyone, welcome to Isla's Fishing Tips this week. There's been a few snappers still coming in from the rip. Many boats have been hitting and missing, but if you put the time in, you can still get the results there. There's also been a few snappers starting to show up in the Cowlards Landing areas. There's been some boats in the shallows chasing some whiting, and they've been pulling up some good sized snapper amongst the whiting there. So also some good whiting in those areas too. Squid again. Once again, really good along the Mount Young grounds, and there's a few whiting and garfish in those areas. Land-based out towards Point Lowly and Becky Point, some really good numbers of salmon, and also a few snook getting caught amongst them as well.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, the squid are loving this calm, clear water at the moment. They've been going pretty well. Yellowfin have been going pretty good along the town foreshore, but the King George within the bay have been pretty hit and miss, a bit patchy. There's been some good salmon caught off the main wharf over the past week, so fish up to around about 1.5 kilos, and there's been a lot of smaller fish mixed in with them, so the action has been pretty reliable. Out from Tumby Bay, the whiting have been going really well lately, and there's also a few snook and a few squid out there too. Moving over to Coffin Bay, within the bay system there's been some whiting caught and also some salmon trout. Well, that's all for this week. Have a good weekend and we'll see you again next week.
Well, stay with us after the break, the Friday forecast and your weekend weather. Welcome back. Checking on the weather now. A bit overcast this Thursday. 19 the top in Port Augusta with 18 in Whyalla and in Port Pirie. Port Lincoln though fine on 20 and much the same in Broken Hill. On the national satellite map, a thick cloud band is moving across much of the country's south. Out on the waters, the winds to 10 knots and variable. The seas below half a metre, I should say, and to the south. Sunrise at just after 7:20. Another cloudy day on the way for tomorrow with 19 again for Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Pirie. 19 also the top in Port Lincoln with showers, and Broken Hill also cloudy and also expecting 19. And the good news is that the weekend is fining up. More of that 19-degree top in Port Lincoln both days, and in Woodner with Cleve on 17. Whyalla also fine and sunny, 19 for Saturday, then 18 on Sunday. Port Augusta 20, then 18. 18 both days in Kadina. Port Pirie also 19 for Saturday with a fine 18 for Sunday. 16 then 15 this weekend in Clare. And in Broken Hill 18 the top on Saturday, and then 17 for Sunday and staying fine. And that is your local news for this evening. Don't forget you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter, and if you'd like to get in touch you can email us at localnews@sca.com.au, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. Until then, I'm Tim Hadfield from the team here at Southern Cross News. Have a good evening. Good night.